Do you remember when Joe Biden was admitting to being a dictator?
There is no detailed plan, that we've seen anyway, as to how you get the vaccine
Joe Biden ran on convincing, not forcing.
out of a container into an injection syringe into somebody's arm.
While Mr. Biden said he would be willing to get a vaccine, he would not require it for all Americans.
Until he became president.
I don't think it should be mandatory. I wouldn't demand to be mandatory, but I would do everything in my power.
Then the rules all of a sudden changed.
The president is ordering nearly all federal workers and employees of contractors that do business with the federal government get vaccinated within 75 days, eliminating their option to be tested instead of getting shots.
Just like I don't think masks have to be made mandatory nationwide.
Until you became the president, then all the rules changed.
So let's institute a mask mandate nationwide, starting immediately.
And you started your dictatorship. Next! Just like the dictator Justin Trudeau, you both tried to stick people with the Wuhan juice.
To protect their loved ones, to protect frontline health workers, and that is...
Damn, you and Joe Biden sound alike. It's like y'all can complete each other's sentences.
First of all, we do have to recognize that the vast majority of Canadians have stepped up, have been there to get themselves vaccinated.
Many of us are frustrated with the nearly 80 million Americans who are still not.
We're amongst the top countries in the world in terms of citizens stepping forward to do the right thing.
The latest data that confirms that we're still in a pandemic of the
When people are seeing cancer treatments,
leaving no room for someone with a heart attack or pancreatitis or cancer.
And elective surgeries put off because beds are filled with people who chose not to get
vaccinated, overcrowd our hospitals, or overrunning emergency rooms and intensive care units.
So it's not just about governments and health workers frustrated.
We've been patient, but our patience is wearing thin.
When people see that we're in lockdowns or serious public health restrictions right now because the risk posed to all of us by unvaccinated people.
And your refusal has cost all of us.
To remind people that it's never too late to do the right thing.
This is not about freedom or personal choice.
It's never too late to go and get your first dose.
This is a pandemic of the unvaccinated.
And that's exactly what Hitler said about a certain group of people. Next! Because I remember in my history books, dictators didn't give people a choice.
I'm announcing that the Department of Labor is developing an emergency rule to require all employers with 100 or more employees that together employ over 80 million workers to ensure their workforces are fully.
That is exactly what the people in Canada is protesting now. That's exactly why the people are protesting against Justin Trudeau now.
What's at the heart of your protest? Is it the vax mandate, or is there something else involved here?
Mandates for Chinese juice, and Chinese juice is just one of the things.
Optimistic, hopeful vision for public life isn't a naive dream. It could be a powerful force for change. If Canadians are to trust their government needs to trust Canadians. Those are the words of the Prime Minister in 2015.
But he must have forgot about them words. That's why the Canadian countryman is trying to remind him of them words.
Well, to me, it looks like just a power play on them trying to scare us, because the Charter of Rights and Freedoms that says we can peacefully protest, and that's basically saying that our Charter of Rights and Freedoms is wrong.
Definitely vaccine mandates were something on the top of the list when we came into this. It's definitely something greater than that. It's freedom of choice.
It's saying that we're unlawfully here when we're not. It's still peaceful.
I don't even care. I know I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm protesting peacefully.
I think it's another scare tactic and trying to fear people into leaving.
But it's not working.
Freedom of rights. It's just everything that has been taken away from us over the past years. Definitely freedom being the top one.
we're doing everything we're doing here is 100% peaceful and within our Charter of Rights. And if anybody's going to be breaking the laws, it's them.
The officer that gave it to me wouldn't even explain what the letter was. He just said all the information was on the letter, and basically I was just to read the letter.
Every couple days there's a new scare tactic. You know, the other day the Emergency Act was in place, and that scared the guys beside me. They couldn't afford having their bank account seized. Again, this is a peaceful protest, so I don't understand why that would happen.
Justin Trudeau needs to trust his countrymen and not trying to turn his countrymen into terrorists.
Federal government has invoked the Emergencies Act.
Some of us, they might gonna be intimidated by this. Some of that by the losing their insurance. But those who are willing to give their life for this cause, they need much more than be treated with arrest, with fines, with losing the insurance, stuff like that.
To supplement provincial and territorial capacity to address the blockades and occupations.
Even somebody can go take my house. I don't care. I don't care at this point. Probably my bank account is frozen. Not because I actually don't even care. I'm broke financially anyway, so take it.
Justin Trudeau is going to take it all right, because that's exactly how dictators treat their people. Joe Biden called them Trump supporters. Justin Trudeau called them conservative Canadians. But the similarities are they both are racist.
These people, very often misogynistic, racist, women haters, science deniers, the fringe. Same prime minister 6 years later as he fans the flames of an unjustified national emergency.
Because that's exactly what dictators do. Next! And how Justin Trudeau talk about his countrymen and women is even worse. Justin Trudeau learned from the best.
Justin Trudeau. What? You're laughing, but Justin Trudeau, I mean, I thought he was kind of a cool guy. And I started to read what he said. This is a couple of weeks ago. He was, or maybe this is September, but he was talking about people who are not vaccinated. He said they don't believe in science. They're often misogynistic, often racist. No, they're not.
Now that was racist and stupid. Next! But that's exactly what dictators do. They label people so they can attack them.
I want to be very clear. The scope of these measures will be time-limited, geographically targeted, as well as reasonable and proportionate.
Who cares?
Oh yeah, we're not going anywhere.
I'm not moving. I'm staying all the way.
I think I have a son. I don't want him seeing dad in handcuffs.
Justin Trudeau don't give a damn about you or your family livelihood.
As we've been discussing this morning, it is the financial provisions of this Emergencies Act that are particularly concerning to many.
Occupying streets, harassing people, breaking the law. This is not a peaceful protest.
The federal government is saying banks have already started to freeze the accounts of people involved in the protests, and they are warning there will be dire financial consequences to come.
We're not using the Emergencies Act to call in the military. We're not suspending fundamental rights or overriding the Charter of Rights and Freedoms.
The RCMP have been sharing information with these financial institutions on the protesters, their supporters, the organizers here, trying to sort of starve off or choke off access to money, which of course has now been funding this for some 3 weeks.
We are not limiting people's freedom of speech. We are not limiting freedom of peaceful assembly. We are not preventing people from exercising their right to protest legally.
And the government has cited terrorist fundraising laws, now directing financial institutions to target people who have perhaps donated.
If your truck is being used in these protests, your corporate accounts will be frozen. The insurance on your vehicle will be suspended.
We also know that some of these crowdfunding sites, such as GoFundMe, are going to have to register with FinTrack, which is the government's financial intelligence unit.
Damn, so now the government is taking over the country's currency? Because when a dictator exercises power, the citizens must obey. and surrender.
The consequences are real, and they will bite.
Or the ass gotta pay.
So, Mr. Speaker, when did the Prime Minister lose his way? When did it happen?
Probably when he started calling them Nazis.
That was not smart of him at all.
Right. He said, but they take up space. And with that, we have to make a choice in terms of a leader as a country. Do we tolerate these people?
Right out of Adolf Hitler's mouth. And they called Donald Trump the dictator when he was getting the World Cup to be hosted in the United States of America.
I announced today that we got the Soccer World Cup. That's a big thing. Who else is going to do it?
How was that racist?
But we've got a problem. It's in 2026. Gianni Infante, who was a great guy, and we announced it in front of the press.
That was a mistake.
Because Donald Trump believes that he should be the ruler, the dictator of the United States of America. He actually is looking to change the Constitution.
And 2026. And I said, well, wait a minute. Under the normal rules, I'll be out in 2024. So we may have to go for an extra term.
When Donald Trump jokes about 12 more years. He's not joking. Donald Trump doesn't have a sense of humor.
Oh, they're going crazy. They're going crazy.
Well, Donald Trump is funny to me, and I got a hell of a sense of humor.
Tomorrow you're going to see headlines. Trump wants an extra term. I told you. He wants an extra.
So I want you to understand, when he says 12 more years, if he wins, he's going to automatically, day number one, start thinking how he can change the Constitution for a third term.
He wants an extra term, ladies and gentlemen.
And then a fourth term, like what he said to President Xi and like he said to so many other people.
We told you. We told you he's a dictator. We told you.
It's why he admires the Kim Jong-uns of the world.
No, I'm only kidding.
But fake news want people to believe you are a dictator.
Donald Trump's presidency, he continues to behave more like a dictator than the leader of a democracy.
Trumpism is McCarthyism with a Twitter account. And like all leaders who put their self-interests above democracy and the rule of law, Trump exploits fear to maintain and expand his power.
Now, the conventional criticism of Trump is that he's unfit to be president because he continuously breaks the norms of how a president should behave.
And Joe Biden fits the norm.
To get something done, if you hold near and dear to you that you like to be able to, anyway. We're going to get a lot done.
Next, we know Joe Biden not a dictator because he's not smart. And we know Justin Trudeau got to be a dictator because don't no other country fuck with him.
Please look in the direction of the photographer in front of the flags. Leaders sitting near Carter Saba, please look to the back in the direction of the photographers in front of the flags.
We know they both controlled by a dictator or a dictatorship, a group of people controlling all of them. But one thing for damn sure, Joe Biden and Justin Trudeau both use racism to pass restrictions and terrorist laws.
Speaker, Conservative Party members can stand with people who wave swastikas. They can stand with people who wave the Confederate flag.
Ain't that the same type of people Joe Biden said went into the Capitol building?
We will choose to stand with Canadians who deserve to be able to get to their jobs, who be able to get their lives back. These illegal protests need to stop, and they will, Mr. Speaker.
Joe Biden said the same thing about January 6th. They was racist.
Unbecoming as a prime minister. It's been 48 hours that the government went from doing nothing to a national emergency.
They turned peaceful protesters into criminals.
48 hours into using the measures, 48 hours without providing Parliament with a justification. So my question is simple. When will the Prime Minister admit that he's lost control of the situation, that he's lost control of his country, that he's lost control of his caucus, and that he's lost control of his leadership?
Damn, Joe Biden can say the same thing.
The steps that we are taking are important and measured to restore order and freedoms to Canadians in this country. That is exactly what we are doing.
And that's exactly some shit Joe Biden would say. Next! Joe Biden or Justin Trudeau don't apologize for calling their citizens racist.
No, I didn't say that. Look what I said. Go back and read what I said.
Mr. Speaker, the lack of an apology from that Prime Minister speaks volumes.
And tell me if you think I called anyone who voted on the side of the position taken by Bull Connor that they were Bull Connor.
I have given this Prime Minister an opportunity to retract a shameful remark where he would accuse any honorable member of this House to stand with a swastika.
Now, here's the thing. There's certain things that are so consequential. You have to speak from your heart as well as your head.
As I said before, we have colleagues who are the descendants of victims of the Holocaust. I'm giving the Prime Minister one more chance. Will he apologize to all members of this House?
I was speaking out forcefully on what I think to be at stake. That's what it is.
And one thing dictators don't do is apologize for their actions. But Justin Trudeau, just like Joe Biden, blame conservatives and Nazis.
The members of the Conservative Party are calling to us to take more action over the past 2 weeks on this. They continued to stand with and encourage these illegal blockades. Mr. Speaker, Canadians are watching carefully and see exactly where the Conservative politicians who've stood with those blockades are standing. We will stand on the side of Canadians who deserve their lives back, who deserve their livelihoods back.
That shit sounds familiar.
Didn't write these out, but the fact is, I don't know how any member of the government caucus can stand by this Prime Minister when he accuses honorable members of this House of standing with a swastika. I'm calling on all members of the Liberal caucus to denounce the Prime Minister. I have given him 2 chances to apologize. He has refused to apologize. Mr. Prime Minister, apologize.
Damn, are the Canadians liberals just as fucked up as the American liberals?
And that is an interesting reading of English. I assume you got into journalism because you like to write.
And no respect. Next! Dictators say if you don't agree with them, you unpatriotic.
No one not done it. The history books will note it. When I was making the case, don't think this is a freebie. You don't get to vote this way and then somehow it goes away. This will stick with you the rest of your career and long after you're gone.
And maybe that's a good thing, because maybe they would go down in history as fighting against a real dictatorship.
So did you expect that would work with Senators Manchin or Sinema?
Did they recognize the dictatorship too? Next!
I am a strong Jewish woman and a member of this House and a descendant of Holocaust survivors, and I have never it's never been singled out, and I have never been made to feel less, except for today when the Prime Minister accused me of standing with swastikas.
Wow. I'm surprised to hear that Trudeau said those things.
You didn't see the blackface? I mean, no, I'm kidding.
What the Prime Minister did, I won't even go into the hypocrisy of the man who did blackface so often he can't remember it, accusing somebody else of doing anything remotely racist.
Had not remembered. And I think the question is, how can you not remember that? The fact is,
But his comments made to a Jewish member of this House are beyond unparliamentary. They are reprehensible, and I would ask that you rule that this rises to the level of a question of privilege, and I am prepared to move the appropriate motion.
I think it should be raised to the question of racism. Next! Because that was racist, and Trump was the dictator and the racist.
Trump's norm breaking is unsettling, to be sure, but his more fundamental offense is he continuously sacrifices the means of our democracy in order to preserve and accumulate personal power.
And while not exactly a student of history, it's methodology that Trump no doubt learned from any number of authoritarian leaders over the last 90 years. Ataturk, Franco, Mussolini, Stalin, and Hitler.
Yeah, but Justin Trudeau perfected it.
It's like, tolerate it. Now you do sound like Hitler.
That was.
And recently he talked about them holding unacceptable views.
Unacceptable views is views against your freedoms. Dictators don't like them views. But Donald Trump didn't have no views because Donald Trump didn't have no views of a dictator.
He thereby violates a U.S. president's core responsibility to protect American democracy.
It feels extreme to make those comparisons, but it is important that we do so because at some point in all those men's histories, while they were at the height of their power, similar comparisons were made of them and at the time were also regarded as extreme.
A president who shuts down government in order to get his way on a controversial issue such as building a wall along the Mexican border, offering to reopen the government as a concession when his opponents give in, he's not protecting the means of democracy. He's treating the government of the United States as a bargaining chip.
So when Justin Trudeau and Joe Biden do it, it's in the name of democracy.
No one wants to believe that American voters elected an authoritarian and may do so a second time. It's unsavory, unpalatable, in fact.
He's asserting power by any means possible.
So we ignore it now like they ignored it then until you can't ignore it anymore. Until the freedoms you were okay with someone, it's unsavory, unpalatable, in fact.
This is the method of a dictator. The overall pattern is clear to anyone who cares to see it.
Well, they should see it with Justin Trudeau.
Mr. Speaker, I've never seen such shameful and dishonorable remarks coming from this Prime Minister. My great-grandfather flew over 30 missions over Nazi Germany. My great-great-uncle's body lies at the bottom of the English Channel. There are members of this conservative caucus who are the descendants of victims of the Holocaust. For the Prime Minister to accuse any colleague in this House of standing with the swastika is shameful. I'm giving the Prime Minister an opportunity. I'm calling on him to unreservedly apologize for this shameful remark.
I wish the American Senate got turned up like that. It's like a Duke versus North Carolina basketball college game day crowd.
So we ignore it now like they ignored it then until you can't ignore it anymore. Until the freedoms you were okay with someone else losing become the freedoms you also lose.
Trump's entire presidency to date has sacrificed the means of democracy to the ends of preserving and building his personal power.
The rights you were okay with someone else losing, you lose. Laws interpreted through the lens of a constitution meant to protect all Americans equally, suddenly interpreted differently.
This must not be tolerated.
We must stop Donald Trump's dictatorship and ignore Joe Biden's and Justin Trudeau's.
Rights you thought you had to control your body, to be covered for your illnesses, to marry whom you choose, to live a life under the umbrella of justice and free of discrimination, gone.
Tell me about it. Ask Canada.
Because you allowed them to be undermined.
So if that's the case, what the truckers doing in Canada is patriotic. Next! Kamala Harris called Donald Trump a dictator, but Donald Trump shared no dictator qualities. Joe Biden and Donald Trump shared no leadership qualities, especially when it came to foreign policies.
So, you know, Joe is, I love talking with Joe about a lot of these issues. And, you know, Joe, I think he said it quite well. He says, you know, foreign policy, it might sound complicated, but really it's relationships.
And Donald Trump understood that.
Therefore, I have determined that it is time to officially recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel.
So just think about it as relationships.
While previous presidents have made this a major campaign promise, they failed to deliver.
You got to keep your word to your friends.
Today, I am delivering.
And so we know this in our personal and professional relationships.
I've judged this course of action to be in the best interests of the United States of America.
Got to be loyal to your friends.
And the pursuit of peace between Israel and the Palestinians.
People who've stood with you, got to stand with them.
And that's why none of our allies is fucking with Joe Biden. Other world leaders didn't think Donald Trump was a dictator. Other foreign leaders thought Donald Trump was crazy.
We're having very good discussions. Kim Jong-un, he really has been very open and I think very honorable from everything we're seeing.
Even when Donald Trump was friendly with other enemies, he still always had the biggest balls in the damn room.
You got to give him credit. How many young guys, he was like 26 or 25 when his father died, take over these tough generals, and all of a sudden, you know, it's pretty amazing when you think of it. How does he do that? Even though it is a culture and it's a cultural thing, he goes in, he takes over, and he's the boss.
But he damn sure not gonna fuck with you.
It's incredible. He wiped out the uncle, he wiped out this one, that one. I mean, this guy doesn't play games, and we can't play games with him.
And he know better to play games with you.
You got to know who your adversaries are and keep them in check.
Donald Trump will give Kim Jong-un praise, but you damn sure better believe Donald Trump let Kim Jong-un know who in the hell is the boss.
North Korea best not make any more threats to the United States. They will be met with fire and fury like the world has never seen. He has been very threatening beyond a normal statement. And as I said, they will be met with fire, fury, and frankly power, the likes of which this world has never seen before. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And nigga, that's not a threat, that's a promise. Next!
But what we have seen with Donald Trump is that he has betrayed our friends.
Bitch, who? NATO?
But 23 of the 28 member nations are still not paying what they should be paying and what they are supposed to be paying for their defense.
Bitch, not before NATO betrayed us.
This is not fair to the people and taxpayers of the United States.
And Trump is going to do something about that.
And many of these nations owe massive amounts of money from past years and not paying in those past years.
You hoes better pay Donald Trump his money.
Over the last 8 years, the United States spent more on defense than all other NATO countries combined.
Yeah, we talking to all you sons of bitches.
If all NATO members had spent just 2% of their GDP on defense last year, we would have had another $119 billion for our collective defense and for the financing of additional NATO reserves.
But instead, you motherfuckers is funding Russia.
On top of that, Germany is just paying a little bit over 1%, whereas the United States in actual numbers is paying 4.2% of a much larger GDP. So I think that's inappropriate also.
And that ain't adding up.
You know, we're protecting Germany, we're protecting France, we're protecting everybody, and yet we're paying a lot of money to protect.
That's like the Bloods paying my grandmother to do drive-bys on them.
Now, this has been going on for decades. This has been brought up by other presidents, but other presidents never did anything about it because I don't think they understood it or they just didn't want to get involved.
Well, if y'all like these videos, I'm going to need more people involved.
And I think that these countries have to step it up, not over a 10-year period, they have to step it up immediately. Germany is a rich country. They talk about they're going to increase it a tiny bit by 2030. Well, they could increase it immediately tomorrow and have no problem.
I know my executive producer, Beth Roberts, don't want her name to be the only name on all my videos. Beth Roberts treat me better than a liberal treat a transgender. Maybe that was a bad example, but that was the only way I could express how much love Beth Roberts showed for me. I can't think of no other type of love that is strong like that. Next!
That's not something that a leader of a democracy does. That's something a two-bit dictator does.
And every other dictator in the world is bitching Joe Biden right now.
And embraced dictators around the world.
Well, keep your friends close and your enemy is closer.
He's been coddling dictators for the last 4 years.
Donald Trump knew what every world leader was up to because Donald Trump invited them into the White House.
Thank you very much, and it's a great honor and privilege because he's become a friend of mine. It is a great honor to have with us today President El-Sisi of Egypt, to introduce President Erdogan of Turkey. We have a great friendship. We have worked long and hard, and we are making a lot of progress on a lot of different fronts, and we appreciate everything that you've done, and I know you appreciate everything that we've done. As countries, I think we're right now as close as we have ever been, and a lot of that has to do with the personal relationship.
And he told them secretly, what you want? Okay, well, this is what we want. And if we don't get what we want, we're going to blow that motherfucker up. And he didn't hear nothing from him since, and they gave him what he wanted.
Let's take, for example, Russia.
Yeah, bitch, let's talk about Russia.
You say to Vladimir Putin.
To answer the first question, I'm laughing too.
Because Joe Biden don't want to talk about him.
They actually, well, look, I mean, he has made clear that the answer is,
or Joe Biden can't talk about him, literally. Next! Donald Trump exposed Joe Biden head.
I want to thank Germany and all of our other partners in Eastern Europe, in the European Union, for their work in this united effort.
The European Union, of course, was set up to take advantage of the United States, to attack our piggy bank, right?
We're in agreement that it cannot be business as usual if Russia further invades.
Said who? Nigga, you or Germany?
Well, I have to say, I think it's very sad when Germany makes a massive oil and gas deal with Russia, where you're supposed to be guarding against Russia, and Germany goes out and pays billions and billions of dollars a year to Russia.
German Chancellor Olaf Scholz agreed, but stopped short of threatening to stop the Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline.
Because Germany say they're not fucking with you, Joe, when it comes to that gas line.
That unopened pipeline would send 55 billion cubic meters of natural gas from Russia to Europe each year.
So we're protecting Germany, we're protecting France, we're protecting all of these countries, and then numerous of the countries go out and make a pipeline deal with Russia where they're paying billions of dollars into the coffers of Russia.
Which funded the Russian military, the people Joe Biden say we're going to war with, or maybe not going to war with, because he know what Putin thinking, but he don't know what Putin thinking, because he know what Putin gonna do, but he really don't know what Putin gonna do. Well, that's what he said on the damn news conference.
Possibly this is a good idea to say to our American friends, we will be united, we will act together, and we will take all the necessary steps, and all the necessary steps will be done by all of us together.
But just not with the pipeline.
If Russia invades, that means tanks or troops crossing the border of Ukraine again. Then there will be no longer a Nord Stream 2. We will bring an end to it.
Who the fuck is we? He speaks German, not French.
So we're supposed to protect you against Russia, but they're paying billions of dollars to Russia, and I think that's very inappropriate. And the former chancellor of Germany is the head of the pipeline company that's supplying the gas.
Former Chancellor Angela Merkel disagreed openly with Biden over the status of the pipeline.
So I used to be a fan of Merkel. I used to think she was terrific, a big leader.
That position may be shifting, analysts say, although Scholz is likely to follow Merkel's footsteps in most other ways.
A great leader. I think what she did to Germany is a disgrace.
And that bitch is Joe Biden buddy.
Ultimately, Germany will have almost 70% of their country controlled by Russia with natural gas. So you tell me, is that appropriate? I mean, I've been complaining about this from the time I got in. It should have never been allowed to have happened. Wait till you see the end result of what happens to Germany and Merkel. No longer a fan. But Germany is totally controlled by Russia because they were getting from 60 to 70% of their energy from Russia and a new pipeline.
I think we have a lot of foes. I think the European Union is a foe.
And you tell me if that's appropriate, because I think it's not. And I think it's a very bad thing for NATO, and I don't think it should have happened.
And I think we have to talk to Germany about it.
And Germany is acting like a foe by funding a foe. Maybe Germany is controlled by the same motherfucker is controlling Joe Biden and Justin Trudeau.
But Germany is totally controlled by Russia.
Germany is controlled by Russia. Russia don't control no damn Donald Trump. Next! And it ain't no damn such thing as Russian collusion.
I have President Putin. He just said it's not Russia. I will say this. I don't see any reason why it would be.
But the Democrats said it was, but the Department of Justice said it wasn't.
And I thought that President Putin was very, very strong. But I think we will end up having an extraordinary relationship.
And Joe Biden don't have a relationship. Joe Biden damn near got a war.
Why are you so confident he'll change his behavior, Mr. President?
Yeah, I'm not confident changing behavior. What the hell? What do you do all the time? So when did I say I was confident?
You said in the next 6 months you'll be able to determine.
What I said was, let's get it straight. I said what will change their behavior is if the rest of the world reacts to them and it diminishes their standing in the world. I'm not confident of anything. I'm just stating the fact.
We done heard about a war with Russia for 6 damn months. When Donald Trump was in office, we didn't hear about a war with Russia in over 4 damn years.
But given his past behavior has not changed, and in that press conference after sitting down with you for several hours, he denied any involvement in cyber attacks, he downplayed human rights abuses, he even refused to say Alexei Navalny's name. So how does that account to a constructive meeting as President Putin?
You don't understand that, you're in the wrong business.
No, nigga, we think you in the wrong business. Next!
So, I serve on the Intelligence Committee of the United States Senate. America's intelligence community told us Russia interfered in the election of the President of the United States in 2016 and is playing in 2020.
And they also told us that they hacked some American companies.
With the most recent hack by the Russians, would you say that this means
We're not sure it's the Russians.
Which Joe Biden had to read off a damn cue card to remember the instructions on what the hell he was supposed to do.
I got a brief, and I'll be in better shape to talk to you about it. Hang on a second. I'll tell you what they sent me. The idea, first of all, we're not sure who it is for certain, number one. And what I did, I directed the full resources of the government to assist in a response.
Wow, what a damn leader.
Christopher Wray, the director of the FBI, said the same.
What, the crooked ass FBI?
What he did today is straight out of a dictator's playbook.
What, got rid of all the traitors?
Revoking the security clearance of former CIA Chief John Brennan is nothing but a blatant attempt to silence a critic.
Or expose the leak.
To take away his right to free speech. To purge him. And the reason this White House gave is beyond belief.
Well, if it's coming from CNN, nigga, it's very believable.
I do believe that Mr. Trump decided to take this action, as he's done with others, to try to intimidate and suppress any criticism of him or his administration. And revoking my security clearances is his way of trying to get back at me.
Criticism is one thing, lying like a son of a bitch is another one.
Mr. Brennan has recently leveraged his status as a former high-ranking official with access to highly sensitive information to make a series of unfounded and outrageous allegations, wild outbursts on the internet and television about this administration.
There are a couple of possibilities here. One is that this could be just a case of a thin-skinned president lashing out one day after Brennan tweeted, quote, "It's astounding how often you fail to live up to minimum standards of decency, civility, and probity. Seems like you will never understand what it means to be president, nor what it takes to be a good, decent, and honest person. So disheartening, so dangerous for our nation."
Mr. Brennan's line and recent conduct, characterized by increasingly frenzied commentary, is wholly inconsistent with access to the nation's most closely held secrets and facilities, the very aim of our adversaries, which is to sow division and chaos.
That nigga had to go because he couldn't be trusted with secrets, just like the rest of the Department of Justice.
James Clapper, James Comey, Michael Hayden, Sally Yates, Susan Rice, Andrew McCabe, Peter Strzok, Lisa Page, and Bruce Orr.
All them sons of bitches is Donald Trump haters.
And taking another page out of a dictator's playbook, President Trump seems to be trying here to manipulate the news cycle.
Not more than the liberals or Kamala Harris.
But Donald Trump, the commander-in-chief of the United States of America, prefers to take the word of Vladimir Putin over the word of the American intelligence community.
Bitch, with all the names Sarah Sanders just named, do you blame them? Next! Because America is first. That was Donald Trump's motto.
You look at our friends at NATO.
I have been very, very direct with Secretary Stoltenberg and members of the alliance in saying that NATO members must finally contribute their fair share and meet their financial obligations.
I know Tom McConaughey paid his fair share and meet his obligation. Tom said we might be going to war, so send a nigga a couple of dollars. I might need some reserve dollars. Next! Thank you, Tom. Are you satisfied yet?
He has walked away from agreements. You can talk, look at the Iran nuclear deal.
The Iran deal was one of the worst and most one-sided transactions the United States has ever entered into.
Which now has put us in a position where we are less safe.
When we came into office, ISIS was running rampant all over Iraq and Syria.
It is another provocative move by Iran, adding to a long list, even after the nuclear deal with the U.S., capturing U.S. sailors, test-firing ballistic missiles, continuing to fund terrorist groups, rhetorically threatening the U.S. and Israel.
Because they are building up what might end up being a significant nuclear arsenal.
Frankly, that deal is an embarrassment to the United States, and I don't think you've heard the last of it, believe me.
We were in that deal, guys. We were in the Iran nuclear deal with friends, with allies around the country. And because of Donald Trump's unilateral approach to foreign policy, coupled with his isolationism, he pulled us out and has made America less safe.
And we knocked out the 100% of the ISIS caliphate.
Meanwhile, confirming today that just 2 days after steering $400 million in cash to Iran.
But the Obama administration did a very, very poor job. They were running rampant all over.
In a covert payment timed to coincide with the release of American hostages, President Obama and his administration paid the Islamic Republic 3 times that amount, wiring that money directly to Iran in 3 payments.
So, Susan, it's about relationships.
And with my baby mama, it's about her funeral. Next!
And the thing that has always been part of the strength of our nation, in addition to our great military, has been that we keep our word.
Well, Joe Biden don't keep his word and don't give a damn about no military.
But Donald Trump doesn't understand that because he doesn't understand what it means to be honest.
Well, a Donald Trump lie is better than a Joe Biden truth. Next! Because Donald Trump is not the dictator. Joe Biden and Justin Trudeau is.
We're in control of the situation on the ground and continue to push forward to clear our streets. This methodical and well-resourced plan will take time, and we are here to see it through to a safe ending.
Americans, understandably but incorrectly, believe this can't happen here.
Last night, we began to take additional actions towards implementing our operation. We moved officers and equipment into key positions throughout the city and took up 100 checkpoints around the downtown core.
We believe our freedoms, our justice system, our institutions, our Constitution, and our courts will protect us from our elected leaders.
We began making arrests of key individuals who were responsible for organizing these unlawful activities.
Yet, for almost 4 years, we have witnessed a slow but deliberate erosion of norms and our civil liberties.
This morning, public order units and a significant number of officers were deployed to support our operations. We first focused on the Nicholas Street area, where unlawful protests were gathered with trucks.
banning Muslims, caging children, curtailing abortions, attacking the press, using force to suppress protest.
Officers then turned to the intersection of Rideau and Sussex, making more arrests and clearing that location. As of 3 p.m. today, we've arrested 70 people.
This is disgusting! Disgusting! Oh my God!
You're now attacking different older people.
They have been charged with multiple various offenses, including mischief. We will run this operation 24 hours a day until the residents and community have their entire city back.
That paved the way for the most anti-democratic impulse of all.
Chase Bowie, thanks for the donation. Your donation is going on my biggest hated impulse, my baby mama. I hope somebody treat my baby mama worse than a Canadian cop treat a Canadian citizen.
That you're not a Canadian.
If I swung at you, it's on film, so you're fine. Drive
Because I couldn't the horn. Yeah. Come and hit me. Yeah, it's called communism.
That is why you're pulled
It's
over.
called communism. It's communism. You don't have to show anything. You didn't do anything wrong.
And that is very, very unfairly.
We have come so far that Trump won't even bother to lie about this one. This is Trump's America, an America that should disgust you no matter what your politics.
Well, what in the hell is Justin Trudeau's Canada?
On the other side of the road, if you want to film, right here's a police officer. You take a line. Okay? Can I go that way? You can't go that way unless you then work down that way. Okay, how did you get that? You're under arrest.
For what?
Arresting citizens for their constitutional rights.
At some point in any nation's dark and troubled moments, the question, how did we get here, is asked.
I know I have. You have the right of freedom of choice. You have the right to beep your horn or whatever. Why are you doing this?
The answer is often because people let it happen.
Because it's an offense.
Of
It's
what?
an offense to beep your noise.
No, it is not an offense. Since when?
Tell me it's not. I have it written down that it is. It's actually an
So
offense.
you're
All right?
standing with your lying government?
Because people didn't rise up in the moment when their liberties were being stripped.
Yeah, you're so. Look, they're hurting an old man, a Canadian citizen. It's communism.
Your chance to rise up and protect this from happening.
Shame on you. Shame on you. Shame on you. Yeah, I know he beat the horn. What the fuck do they represent? They represent Trudeau.
Speaking of terrorists, I just got my package from Randy K. And it's not ticking up in here, but this shit is the booyah. I don't want to say it's the real word because YouTube censors might send the FBI over this motherfucker and talking about I'm a real terrorist. So let me have a good night and I'll see y'all tomorrow or the next day or whenever I make a video. But if you want to see more videos, send a nigga a donation down below. The link is down below. You can send me a PayPal or you can send me a Cash App or you can be like Randy K and send me something through the mail, if you know what I mean. And I do accept cash too in the mail, but if you know what I mean. Shout out to Elizabeth for the donation. Also, shout out to Angie Plot